EOS-9 was never quiet. Even at night, the mining world hummed, reactors breathing beneath the crust, orbital traffic murmuring overhead, wind scraping across the salt flats. When every channel went dead at once, Captain Elias Rowe felt it before the alarms began. He stood on the bridge of the UNS Resolute, hands clasped behind his back, eyes on the forward display. The stars ahead warped, bent inward like light dragged down a drain. "Contact," said Lieutenant Hara, her voice steady but tight. "Multiple mass signatures. They're coming out of nowhere." The distortion snapped open. Shapes poured through, vast, angular silhouettes blotting out the stars. No formation recognized by human doctrine. No hails. No hesitation. Rowe exhaled slowly. "Sound general quarters." The bridge filled with motion. Red light washed over steel. Crew snapped into place, fear contained by training. On the display, the alien fleet finished translating into real space, engines flaring like cold suns. They dwarfed the human picket line stationed above EOS-9. "Identification?" Rowe asked. Hara shook her head. "Nothing in the archives. Hull geometry is aggressive. They're powering weapons." Rowe watched the enemy ships adjust their angles, clean and precise, like predators lining up a strike. He felt the old instinct rise, the urge to meet force with force, to make a stand because pride demanded it. He buried it. "Transmit on all frequencies," he said. "Open channel." Static answered. Then a voice cut through, deep, resonant, layered with a faint harmonic distortion, as if several throats spoke in unison. "Prey species," the voice said. "You occupy claimed space. This world is designated for harvest." The bridge went still. Rowe stepped forward. "This is Captain Elias Rowe of the United Nations Expeditionary Fleet. You are in sovereign human territory. State your identity." A pause. Not uncertainty, assessment. "We are Karzul," the voice replied. "Apex of this spiral arm. Your designation is irrelevant." Weapons fire erupted without warning. The first volley shredded the outer defense platforms. Human rail slugs sparked harmlessly against alien shields before dissipating. "Return fire," Hara said, almost pleading. Rowe shook his head. "Negative. Fall back to secondary positions. Evacuate surface sectors Alpha through Delta." Hara stared at him. "Sir, we can hold." "We can't," Rowe cut in. "And pretending we can will get everyone killed." On the display, a Karzul dreadship speared a colony transport with a lance of violet light. The ship folded inward, vanished. No debris. Just absence. Rowe's jaw tightened. "All ships, execute withdrawal pattern echo. Do not engage unless fired upon. Repeat, do not engage." The order rippled through the fleet. One by one, human vessels broke formation, scattering toward pre-planned vectors. To any observer, it looked like panic. The Karzul pursued immediately. They always did. Rowe had read the briefings, the fragmented reports salvaged from extinct civilizations. The pattern was consistent: overwhelming force, relentless advance, no mercy. Species either submitted or vanished. None adapted fast enough to matter. On the surface, EOS-9 burned. Cities collapsed under orbital strikes, infrastructure pulverized with surgical indifference. Yet as the Karzul descended, they found little resistance, and fewer bodies. "Ground teams report mass evacuations," Hara said quietly. "They're not herding civilians. They're destroying empty settlements." Rowe allowed himself a thin smile. "Good. Let them waste the effort." The Karzul didn't understand retreat. In their history, prey ran until cornered. Then it broke. Humans did neither. Hours later, the Resolute drifted cold and dark behind a moonlet on the system's edge. Power down. Emissions masked. The bridge lights dimmed to a dull amber. No one spoke. Finally, Hara broke the silence. "Sir, we just gave them a planet." Rowe turned to face her. His eyes were tired, but focused. "No. We gave them ground. There's a difference." She hesitated. "They'll think we're weak." They already do, Ro said. That's the point. A junior officer cleared his throat. Captain. Incoming transmission. Encrypted. Origin, Earth Command. Ro nodded. Put it through. Admiral Chen's face appeared, lined and grave. Report. Ro didn't sugarcoat it. He described the ships, the weapons, the doctrine he'd inferred in minutes of observation. When he finished, Chen was silent for a long moment. Can we stop them? She asked. Ro met her gaze. Not like this. Not yet. Chen closed her eyes briefly. Then what are we doing? Learning, Ro said. They fight to dominate. We fight to survive. That gives us time. And time is everything. The transmission ended. Outside, the Karzul fleet carved through the remains of EOS 9, triumphant, methodical. They recorded the conquest as effortless. Another weak species erased. High Predator Vraxcal observed the aftermath from his command vessel, claws resting on the obsidian armrest. The humans had fled. Their resistance had been negligible. Their world lay in ruins. And yet, he leaned forward, eyes narrowing. Why, he rumbled to his warseers, did the prey abandon so much, so quickly? One seer clicked its mandibles, uncertain. Perhaps they lack the will to defend what is theirs. Vraxcal considered this. The idea felt wrong, though he could not say why. Prey clung to territory. Prey died screaming. These humans had withdrawn with purpose. Mark their vector, Vraxcal ordered. We will hunt them down. They will break. Far beyond the shattered orbit of EOS 9, Captain Elias Rowe watched the same stars from a darkened bridge. He replayed sensor logs, weapon signatures, engine harmonics. Each detail was catalogued, dissected, fed into human analysis engines already spinning up across the network. Captain, Hara said softly, they think they've won. Rowe nodded. That's how every predator starts the story. He turned back to the stars, where the enemy prowled, confident and hungry. They just don't know yet, he said, that this is the part where humans begin to change. The Resolute stayed dead in space for 18 hours, drifting like scrap while the Karzul tore 9 apart behind them. Captain Elias Rowe slept in bursts, 10 minutes at a time, head against a bulkhead, waking with the same calculation in his chest. How long until they learned to smell a lie? When the fleet finally powered up, it was without ceremony. No speeches. No heroics. Only the flat efficiency of people who understood the rules had changed. Status, Rowe said, stepping onto the bridge as systems came alive in muted layers. Lieutenant Hara was already there, hair tied back, eyes too sharp for someone who'd lost a world yesterday. We've got 8 ships left in our group. 3 are limping. The Paladin lost half its thrusters. The Morrow has coolant leaks. Supplies. Low. Her mouth tightened. We're not built for long running. Rowe looked at the tactical display, a cluster of human vessels spread thin across the dark, moving toward the empty stretch between systems. Space so wide it might as well be an ocean without shores. On the edge of the map, Karzul markers advanced like a tightening fist. They're following, Hara said. Fast. Rowe nodded. Good. We'll feed them. The word landed wrong. A few heads turned. A junior comms officer, Patel, blinked as if he'd misheard. Rowe didn't soften it. Open a channel to Task Group Hestia, he ordered. A grainy hologram flickered into place. Captain Soto aboard the UNS Hestia, face streaked with fatigue and grease. Behind him, a damaged corridor glowed with emergency lights. Rowe, Soto rasped. You alive? So far. How many ships do you have? 5. 2 can't jump again. Soto's gaze hardened. Tell me you've got a plan that doesn't end with us dying slowly. Rowe met his eyes. I'm going to make them chase shadows until their teeth crack. Soto gave a humorless laugh. That's poetic. Also vague. It has to be simple, Rowe said. They have superior firepower. They don't have superior flexibility. We stop giving them battles. We give them problems. Hara stepped closer, voice low. Sir, we're talking about raiding them. We're talking about starving them, Ro corrected. They're not here for territory. They're here for consumption. That means logistics matter. Sotto frowned. Predators need supply lines. Everything that moves needs fuel, Ro said. Everything that fires needs charge. Their ships are big. Big ships drink. He tapped the display. Routes lit up. Probable Karzul resupply vectors based on engine signatures and prior intercepts. The Dominion fleet moved like a spear, but even spears required hands. We hit their tendons, Ro said. Not the blade. Sotto stared at the map. You're asking me to attack. I'm asking you to cut, then vanish, Ro said. No glory. No holding ground. We damage their support ships and leave them wondering what happened. Sotto's jaw worked. And the civilians? Ro's throat tightened at the memory of US-9's burning sky. Evacuation corridors are already running. We keep them open by keeping the Karzul angry at us. Hara glanced at him. So we become bait. Ro didn't deny it. We become unpredictable. The first strike came 2 days later, in the dead region between stars. The Karzul pursued the human fleet into a field of tumbling ice and metal, the remains of an ancient asteroid mining operation abandoned centuries ago. Human sensors were blinded by debris. Karzul sensors, superior and confident, surged forward anyway. Ro stood at the command console, watching the enemy dreadship glide between silent chunks of rock. Distance? He asked. Patel swallowed. 8,000 kilometers. Hold fire, Ro said. Hara's fingers hovered over targeting. They're close enough to swat us. Let them think they already have, Ro said. A smaller Karzul vessel detached from the dreadship, sleek, sharp-edged, moving with predatory certainty. It advanced toward the Resolute, sensors probing, searching for heat, for fear, for any sign of prey behavior. Ro watched its path with quiet satisfaction. They send a hunter first. That means they assume we'll panic. Sir, Patel said, voice brittle, their weapons are charging. Ro lifted a hand. Now. The debris field lit up. Not with human gunfire, there wasn't enough. Instead, hidden thruster pods strapped to dead asteroids ignited, shifting massive rocks into collision courses. Old mining charges, forgotten, unstable, detonated in delayed cascades. The field became a storm of shrapnel and spinning stone. The Karzul hunter ship turned too late. A kilometer-wide boulder sheared its flank, ripping into its shield in a shower of blue sparks. The ship cartwheeled, slammed into another fragment, and split cleanly. It didn't explode, it came apart, pieces spinning like broken teeth. For the first time, the Karzul dreadship hesitated. Hara's voice rose. They're backing off. Fire, Ro snapped. Human rail cannons thundered. The sound vibrated through the hull like a heartbeat. Slugs streaked across the void and hammered the dreadship's exposed sensor ridge. Its shields flared unevenly, still strong, but not invulnerable. Ro leaned in. Target their eyes. We're not killing it. We're blinding it. The dreadship unleashed a violet lance. Space bent. One of Ro's escort frigates, the Juno, vanished into a hole of light. No wreckage. No scream. Just a sudden empty slot on the fleet display. Hara flinched, then steadied herself. Juno is gone. Ro didn't look away from the enemy. Mark it. Keep firing. The dreadship tried to reorient, but the debris storm boxed it in. It fired again, missed. Fired again, hit only tumbling rock. Every shot was a drain. Every second it spent was time it shouldn't have wasted. Ro opened fleet-wide comms. All ships, pattern glass. 3 volleys, then jump. Patel's eyes widened. We're leaving now. We came to teach, Ro said. Lesson delivered. Hara's voice softened. What lesson? Ro watched the dreadship shields flicker, its sensor array sparking, its pursuit line disrupted. That prey doesn't set traps. The human ships jumped in staggered flashes, vanishing into the dark before the Karzul could lock a full-firing solution. The Resolute was last. Ro waited until the final second, until the enemy dreadship's weapons charged again, until its predator patience cracked into rage. Then he ordered the jump. The stars smeared, the universe folded, and the ship slid into the quiet between worlds. On the Karzul command vessel, High Predator Vraxkal watched the battle record in silence. The human fleet had been within reach, almost helpless, yet it had bitten and disappeared like smoke. A warseer clicked uneasily. They fled again. Vraxkal's claws dug into the armrest. They returned to strike. That is not fleeing. Another seer hissed. Perhaps they are not prey. The chamber went still. Vraxkal's glowing eyes narrowed. All prey is prey, he said, but the words lacked their old certainty. On the replay, humans didn't die like the others. They didn't collapse into chaos. They behaved like something else, something that could lose and still choose. He turned to his officers. Double the hunters. Spread the net. I want their patterns. In the human jump space corridor, Ro listened to damage reports. 1 ship lost. 2 damaged. Ammunition running thin. Hara approached, voice low. Sir, that was a victory. Ro stared at the data scrolling down the screen, energy expenditure estimates, shield fluctuation curves, weapon cycle timings. It was information, he said. And we paid for it. Hara's mouth tightened. How much more can we pay? Ro looked at his crew, their fear, their exhaustion, their stubborn refusal to break. He thought of the Dominion's certainty, of its clean conquest, of how it expected the universe to behave. As long as we're alive, he said, we can afford to keep learning. Outside, the stars waited, cold, indifferent, endless. And somewhere behind them, the predators began to chase not prey, but a question they couldn't answer. Captain Elias Rowe saw the change in the data before anyone spoke it aloud. Their pursuit vectors tightened. Their scouts moved in layered screens instead of straight lines. Where once they surged forward with certainty, now they tested space ahead like water tasted for poison. They're learning, Lieutenant Hara said, studying the tactical feed. Rowe nodded. Good. That means we've earned their attention. The Resolute drifted at the edge of a dying star system, engines throttled to minimum, hull cooled to near background radiation. Around them hung the ruins of a civilization older than humanity, fractured orbital rings, hollowed stations, debris frozen in slow arcs. A graveyard. Forgotten. Perfect. Task group reports in, Patel said. Soto's ships are in position. So is Hestia 3. Rowe folded his hands behind his back. Then we proceed. This wasn't another hit and run. This time, they needed proof. The Warseer shuttle slipped into human hands without a shot fired. It happened during a calculated withdrawal. A Karzul sensor craft, isolated and overly confident, followed what it thought was a wounded frigate into the station ruins. Automated bulkheads sealed behind it. Old gravity fields snapped on in uneven pulses. The shuttle slammed into a docking spine and stuck. Human Marines boarded 3 minutes later. Rowe watched the feed from the bridge as armored figures cut through the hull. Inside, the Karzul seer thrashed, taller than any human, armored in chitin plates marked with ritual scars. Its eyes burned amber with fury. Keep it alive, Rowe said. I want it thinking. They brought the seer to a containment chamber shielded with layered fields and old-fashioned steel. It paced like a caged thing, claws scraping metal, mandibles clicking in agitation. Rowe entered alone. The Karzul froze when it saw him. Its lipless mouth curled back, exposing rows of serrated teeth. You come to beg, it growled through the translator. Rowe pulled a chair into the room and Saturday no. I came to ask. The seer laughed, a rasping sound. Prey does not ask predators questions. Rowe tilted his head. That's interesting. You keep calling us prey, yet you sent a warseer to observe us. Why? The creature's eyes narrowed. You behave incorrectly. Incorrectly, Rowe repeated. Meaning we don't die when expected. Silence stretched. Rowe leaned forward. You don't understand us because your doctrine doesn't account for failure. You overwhelm. You consume. You move on. There's no room for adaptation. The seer lunged against the field, snarling. We adapt by destroying weakness. Ro didn't flinch. Then why are you here? The seer hesitated. That was enough. Ro stood. You don't need to answer. We've already learned what matters. He turned to leave. Wait, the seer hissed. Ro paused. You are not prey, the Khazal said, each word forced. You are a contagion. You infect the hunt. Ro allowed himself a small, tired smile. That's one way to put it. The information extracted wasn't technical. It was structural. The Khazal command hierarchy was rigid. Honor-bound. Orders flowed from apex to claw without deviation. Initiative outside doctrine was punished. Retreat was taboo. Their fleets moved as unified beasts, powerful, but slow to change direction. Humans thrived in the cracks. The next engagement was no accident. Ro lured a Khazal strike group toward the broken moon of Asta's Fall. The humans leaked data deliberately, distorted comms, half-encrypted transmissions suggesting a desperate evacuation hub. It was bait-tuned to predator instinct. They'll commit, Hara said. Too much mass. That's what we want, Ro replied. The Khazal arrived in force. Too much force. Their ships filled the sky above the fractured moon, weapons primed, shields flaring. They descended as one. Ro's fleet scattered. Not away. Through. Human ships plunged into the moon's shattered gravity well, weaving between tumbling rock and molten fractures. Automated beacons ignited, pulling Khazal vessels into pursuit corridors that narrowed with every kilometer. Now, Ro said quietly. The moon broke. Not naturally. Not completely. Just enough. Charges buried weeks earlier detonated in sequence, collapsing fault lines and turning the moon's core into a violent storm of shifting mass. Gravity twisted. Orbits destabilized. Khazal ships struggled. Their formations fractured as physics betrayed certainty. Shields strained against tidal forces they hadn't anticipated. Target command nodes, Ro ordered. Selective fire. Human weapons struck not at hulls, but at relay ships, data spines, synchronization hubs. Khazal vessels began to drift, then collide. Orders failed to propagate. Individual captains hesitated, awaiting commands that never came. For the first time, Khazal ships fired without coordination. A dreadship smashed into a moon fragment and split open, its interior venting atmosphere and fire into space. Smaller vessels spun helplessly, engines flaring uselessly. They're breaking formation, Hara breathed. They can't fight alone, Ro said. They were never meant to. A Khazal cruiser turned its guns on a human frigate, then froze mid-rotation, struck by another Khazal ship trying to obey a contradictory order. The collision tore both apart. The battle lasted 17 minutes. When it ended, the moon was gone, the space around it a churning cloud of debris and wreckage. Human losses were real, 3 ships destroyed, dozens dead, but the Khazal strike group was shattered beyond recovery. Silence fell over the Resolute's bridge. Patel finally whispered, "We won." Ro shook his head. "No. We survived." On the Khazal flagship, High Predator Vrax Khal watched the aftermath with something close to disbelief. The strike group had not been annihilated by superior firepower. It had collapsed inward, undone by confusion and enforced obedience. A warseer knelt before him, trembling. "They turned our strength against us." Vrax Khal rose slowly. His claws trembled, not with rage, but something colder. "Prey does not dismantle the hunt," he said. Across human space, the data spread. Analysts dissected the battle frame by frame. Patterns emerged. Weaknesses mapped. Doctrine rewritten in real time. Ro stood alone on the bridge after the reports ended, staring at the stars. Hara approached. "Sir, the crews are calling it the turning." Ro considered the word. "No," he said quietly. "This is just the moment they realize we bleed differently." Hara watched the distant glow of wreckage fade into darkness. And what happens when they understand that? Ro's expression hardened, not cruel, not triumphant, but resolved. "Then," he said, They'll learn the most dangerous thing about humans. She waited. Ro spoke softly. We don't stop when we're hurt. Far away, High Predator Vraxcal stared at the void where his fleet had failed. For the first time in his long life, he did not see prey. He saw a rival, and the fear that followed came sharp, unwelcome, and unforgettable. The final confrontation did not begin with thunder or fire. It began with an invitation. Captain Elias Ro watched the incoming signal stabilize on the Resolute's main display. The encryption was alien, dense, ceremonial, unmistakably Karzul. It cut through human filters like a blade through cloth. They're requesting parley, Lieutenant Hara said, disbelief threading her voice. Specifically, you. Ro studied the signal. He had expected rage. Escalation. A last attempt at overwhelming force. Instead, this was something else. Route it, he said. And prep the fleet. Prep how? Ro's gaze didn't leave the screen. To not fire unless I say so. The image resolved into High Predator Vraxcal. Up close, the apex looked different than on battlefield feeds. Still massive. Still terrifying. But there was tension in his posture, a coiled restraint that hadn't been there before. His eyes burned, yet the burn was focused now, sharp with calculation. You have disrupted the hunt, Vraxcal said. No introduction. No threat. Just a statement. Ro nodded once. You disrupted it first. Silence followed. Not a pause for translation. Vraxcal understood him perfectly. You fight without honor, the Predator said. Ro folded his arms. You define honor as winning without challenge. We define it as refusing extinction. Vraxcal's mandibles clicked, slow and deliberate. You should have been consumed. All indicators said so. Ro leaned forward slightly. Indicators aren't instincts. They're assumptions. The Predator's eyes narrowed. You seek to mock us. No, Ro said calmly. I seek to end this. That landed. Around them, space held its breath. The human fleet hung at range, engines hot but weapons idle. Across the void, the remaining Karzul armada loomed, still vast, still lethal, but no longer confident. You have damaged us, Vraxcal said. You have cost us fleets. Worlds. Certainty. Ro's voice softened. You cost us planets first. Vraxcal's claws flexed. We are apex. We do not withdraw. Ro met his gaze. Then this ends with your extinction. The words were not shouted. They didn't need to be. For a long moment, Vraxcal said nothing. When he finally spoke, his voice was lower. You believe you can destroy us. Ro shook his head. No. I believe you can destroy yourselves. The Predator stiffened. Explain. You built your dominion on inevitability, Ro said. On the idea that nothing adapts faster than you. That belief is cracking. Your fleets hesitate. Your captains wait for orders that don't arrive. You taught them obedience, not judgment. Vraxcal's eyes flickered. A subtle thing. A crack. Ro continued. If this war goes on, we'll keep forcing you into choices your doctrine can't answer. You'll lose more than ships. You'll lose what holds you together. The Predator's gaze drifted, just for a moment, to the human fleet, small, scarred, stubbornly present. What do you offer? Vraxcal asked. Ro answered without hesitation. An end. You withdraw from human space. You leave what remains intact. In return, we stop hunting your weaknesses. A rumble passed through the Predator's chest. You presume mercy. I presume pragmatism, Ro said. We don't need to dominate you to survive. That's the difference between us. The silence that followed was heavier than any battle. On the Karzul command decks, officers watched their leader hesitate. Some shifted uneasily. Others trembled. The myth of the unstoppable hunt wavered with every passing second. Vraxcal straightened. You are dangerous, he said. Not because of strength. Because you refuse to accept the universe as it is. Ro allowed himself a faint smile. That's how we got this far. The predator's claws clenched, then slowly relaxed. When he spoke again, his voice carried something new, resignation, edged with resolve. The Dominion will withdraw, Vraxcal said. We will mark your species as unviable prey. Hara exhaled sharply, barely audible. Ro inclined his head. Then this ends today. The transmission cut. No cheers erupted on the Resolute. No celebration followed. Only a quiet, spreading release, like muscles unclenching after years of strain. They're pulling back, Patel said, voice thick. All sectors. Full retreat. Ro closed his eyes for a heartbeat. Across the void, the Karzul fleet turned away, not in disorder, but with something approaching caution. The hunt was over. Days later, Ro stood before the assembled human commanders in a secure conference link. Faces from dozens of worlds filled the display, tired, scarred, alive. We didn't win because we were stronger, Ro said. We won because we refused to play the role assigned to us. A murmur of agreement rippled through the channels. They'll remember this, someone said. They'll come back. Ro nodded. Maybe. But when they do, they won't come as predators. They'll come as equals, or not at all. After the meeting ended, Ro returned to the observation deck. Stars stretched endlessly before him, indifferent as ever. Humanity was still small in the vastness. Still fragile. But no longer invisible. Hara joined him, resting her hands on the railing. Sir, what happens now? Ro considered the question. Now we rebuild. We explore. We prepare, not for conquest, but for contact. She glanced at him. You think they'll change? Ro's gaze lingered on the fading vector of the retreating Dominion. I think they already have. Far away, aboard the Karzul flagship, High Predator Vraxcal stood alone. The hunt banners had been lowered. The war drums silenced. He stared into the dark where humans lived. They were prey, he whispered. Then, after a long moment, he corrected himself. They chose not to be. The universe did not tremble. It did not announce a new age. But quietly, inexorably, the balance shifted. And somewhere among the stars, humanity endured, not as conquerors, not as victims, but as the species that met the apex and taught it how to stop.